Hello and welcome to another Pedal Out video. Today we are driving a hire car. We are in the Hyundai I40. It's a CRDI model, I think, and it is a 2016. It's a 66 plate. It's less than 3 weeks old with hardly any miles on the clock. It did have about 300 on. We've put another few hundred on while we've had it. And yeah, it's a diesel, so I'm going to just have a quick chat about it. So this particular model, as with most hire cars, is a bit Spartan in terms of equipment. In terms of design though, let's talk about that. From the outside, the lines of this car are very pretty indeed. I really like the shape of this Hyundai. It's been very well designed. It's got some really nice lines on it. It is a saloon, which confused me at first. The reason it confused me is because it doesn't look like a saloon. So it has effectively a boot like saloons do, but if you look at the kind of curvature of the body and the lines, it doesn't look like it should be a saloon. That confused me at first. Didn't bother me so much, but what did bother me, being a saloon, it doesn't have a rear wiper, which, again, not the end of the world, but when you're driving long distances on the motorway, which I was yesterday in this car, and it was tipping it down with rain, just being able to clear what is essentially quite a slopey rear window, which you think looks like a hatchback, you can't clear it with a wiper because there isn't one, and that is a little bit annoying. There are a few other bits that I suppose, living in the modern world, driving new modern cars these days, that you just kind of expect to see, arguably even on the base models of cars. Now, the first one with this car, and again it's a hire car, it's a big car, it's kind of Mondeo Insignia type sized vehicle. And being a hire car and being probably used by people like me going up and down the country doing meetings and business, you would expect it to kind of have just some little standard bits and bobs that you just kind of get used to. And one of those things is rear parking sensors. Again, arguably, people should just know how the heck to drive and be able to reverse cars, and indeed I can. But with this car, when you jump in it and it's new, and it has got that little, it's not quite a slabby boot, it's a very sleek boot, but you've got no idea where the front or the back of this car is. It's quite a big car. So yeah, it was a bit annoying not having parking sensors. Again, not the end of the world, but on a car like this, you kind of, I don't know, just even on base models, maybe expect to get them, and you don't. There's a few other little things that you don't get on this particular model anyway, of the Hyundai I40. What you don't get, and again, it's kind of annoying because in a hire car, again, kind of, I would consider this a repmobile type car, you just kind of expect them to have, just by default really, is cruise control. So you get buttons on the steering wheel for your mobile phone to start and end calls, for the stereo volume, and a little couple of buttons to control the menu on the centre of the dash, which you can't really do much with because you need to be stopped to change any of the settings, which is a bit redundant. But I was looking down trying to find buttons for cruise control. Anyway, it turns out there aren't no buttons for cruise control, so it obviously doesn't come with it, which again, just sort of standard sort of features in a kind of repmobile car you would sort of expect to get. And what happens is, or what you have with your hands on the steering wheel, it's a lovely kind of modern, very nicely stitched steering wheel, probably some kind of faux leather, quite sporty looking. Where your kind of fingers sit behind the wheel, where you would expect to kind of maybe find additional buttons to control the stereo and what have you, what you get instead is kind of holes where the screws are for the steering wheel, which, I don't know, I'm kind of, you know, when you're driving along, it's just a bit naff really. Also, what's probably missing a little bit in this car is any kind of modernity, modern type stuff with regards to colour displays. So most cars, I think I'm right in saying, even, you know, pretty base spec cars generally have colour kind of LCD displays that are nice. You know, this is a 66 plate car, but you've got kind of a standard liquid crystal display in the centre of your dash, and the same again for the kind of stereo. There's no colour display, and there is no satellite navigation. Now, I'm not a massive fan of satellite navigation in cars because I think it's pretty unnecessary when you can just plug your phone in and have your phone holder and have a multitude of satellite navigations, ways mainly, on your own device. So I think satellite navigation can be a bit wasted in cars. But having said that, it is still quite nice when you're on long distances, which is why you hire a car like this for business to punt up and down the country, to have satellite navigation just as a backup, really, in case you've forgotten your mobile phone charger or holder or what have you. Kind of nice to have that. So a bit disappointed, no sat nav. I am conscious that I'm not giving this car a very good review, and if you've seen my other videos, you will know that my frame of reference is probably a little bit unfair. If I was driving kind of similar cars to this all day, every day, then maybe I'd be slightly more complimentary. But when you're used to, and I don't mean this to sound arrogant or pretentious in any way, shape or form, but when you're used to kind of driving BMWs, Mercedes, Porsches, that have slightly higher specifications and a bit more power, you kind of get used to them a bit. So coming into something like diesel Hyundai I40 is a bit of a step change. But I'm by no means trying to be derogatory. I'm just trying to pick things up that I think the average person who would want to hire or drive a car like this would pick up on. So it is a diesel, and as such, it hasn't got a lot of get up and go. I suspect it's a teeny tiny diesel. It does, when it's cruising, cruise very nicely at good, reasonably high motorway type speeds. You can cruise along very nicely in this car, and it's obviously very smooth and quite comfortable. The driving position is slightly awkward. I need to have my seat quite far forward to be able to depress the clutch all the way down, and as a consequence it just feels like the gear lever is slightly back, and I have to kind of move my left arm back to get my hand on the gear lever, which I just find that a little bit annoying, really. There is a sort of standard remote central locking key that you get with this car. It's a switchblade type key, so the key kind of pops out. It's been a while since I've seen one of those on a new car, and I kind of thought that most modern brand new cars had kind of done away with that, and they were either kind of the pluggy in type or just completely keyless, and you get in and hit the start button and off you go. But turns out no, people are still making proper keys for cars. Who knew? I didn't. The design inside this car is very pretty. It's not the most ergonomic. The button for the fan switch is kind of round on the other side of this big centre binnacle in the console, which I think is a little bit odd. But it is very pretty. You've got this kind of silver inlay kind of pulsing through the dash. It kind of curves through the dashboard. It's very elegant, and certainly when you first get inside this car, my initial impression was, wow, it's really stylish in here. Having driven it for a while and a few days, what you soon realise is that stylishness doesn't really kind of make up for, it doesn't really come out in the kind of ergonomics of it. For example, there's a big button in the middle of the dash that I just expected would be a big kind of control button for the radio, like a big volume or a big selector type button, but it isn't. It's for the heating controls, so you can move it from your feet to your face to your windscreen or what have you. I don't kind of know why you would need a button that big to do those controls, when you're probably going to be messing around and changing the radio and flicking through tracks and things like that, and all of that stuff feels quite far away, so a bit awkward. Other good points in this car: spaciousness. It's Insignia stroke Mondeo size. It's obviously a 4-door, and from a back seat perspective there seems to be loads of room in the back, which is good. The boot, despite it being a saloon, is also ginormous as well, so there's bags of space in there. And as I say, from an aesthetics point of view, from the outside looking in, I just love the way this car looks. It's got this lovely kind of curved shape at the front of it, the headlights. It's a very elegant, very pretty car. Going on to, again, a slight negative that I've found is these A-pillars here. That's me pointing to the A-pillar. Are huge, really, and quite wide at the bottom. I guess the way the car angles on the windscreen, the A-pillars are quite wide, and as a consequence, you've got kind of two fairly large blind spots in the car when you're turning a corner. So if you're going around a bend, which we were doing yesterday afternoon in a city where you kind of want visibility straight ahead, and you've got a lot of kind of people moving around, cars, traffic lights, other road users, and like there's these great big blind spots. You've got the wing mirror, a bit more of the wing mirror, and then these big A-pillars, and I'm like, Christ, I can't see around it. And I found myself kind of sitting up in my seat to peer around to check visibility. So overall, what is the final verdict on this Hyundai? Well, I like it. Would I buy one? Probably not. What is the future of this car after it's lived its life as a repmobile stroke hire car chugging up and down the motorways of Great Britain? It's probably going to become a minicab, which kind of makes me quite sad, because I don't know, as with any car, if you spend enough time in it, you do kind of form some kind of connection, and all the things that are wrong with this car, kind of the styling makes up for it. It is really stylish, and I'd hate to see this car chugging around the city centre streets in kind of 5 years' time, carrying people who have had a little bit too much to drink home after a night out. But sadly, I feel that's probably the fate and destiny of this family Hyundai. I don't think it's going to be enjoying life its latter years, chugging a family around on nice summer holidays to Cornwall, which is a shame, kind of tinged with sadness, and makes driving this car a little bit of a hollow experience. But there you go, the Hyundai I40. Hope you liked the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up and hit like, and please subscribe for more car and bike videos coming very soon. Thanks. This is a microlight flight around the Isle of Wight